Good morning to all of you. It's wonderful to be here today to moderate a panel among some outstanding leaders. It's not a normal time, and the theme that we have for all of you today is how are the priorities related to people and leadership, particularly from a CHRO's outlook, changing in the new normal. We are really looking at over the next 45 minutes, covering a few areas related to leadership in these times, people priorities, and how some of the new changing uh, dynamics is impacting the way we work, we engage people. So I have here to start the conversation. Let me put across to Lina. Lina, it's wonderful to have you here. Hello.
Thank you.
In today's context, just wanted to get your perspective to start this conversation at the leadership level. What do you think is changing today, particularly when you look at people priorities in relation to the business challenges in this pandemic times?
So it's a very heavy question, James, to begin with, and I'll try to do justice. You said that these are not normal times, but I keep hearing that people are calling this new normal, and yet nothing is normal. And as human beings, all of us are very used to a routine. We are very used to predictiveness. We are very used to knowing what perhaps the future may look like, plus or minus a few variables. uh, and at least in the last, if I see the last decade, if something has been made very clear, it is that there is no certainty about future. And the magnitude of this uncertainty is what has got enhanced through the pandemic. And therefore you're seeing people feeling like fish out of water in this kind of scenario. It's important therefore for leaders to think about how this shifting landscape, and what does this shifting landscape means for them and their business. It actually does mean that you have to rethink how you deliver business. Your supply chains are impacted, the customer mindset has been impacted, projects are getting impacted. So with all of this, understanding how this landscape is perhaps time to strengthen your position in certain areas, maybe let go of certain areas which perhaps don't make sense anymore, and therefore shifting your business priorities and making sure that you are reorienting your organization to win in future. When you do that, it's very important to communicate that back to your to your teams. Even if you know that future is uncertain, a leader has to instill confidence in the team by ensuring that the person is speaking about the plans with honesty, with authenticity, and is able to communicate the direction that we are going to take in the current situation. So I think if there is one key takeaway for any leader, actually two, I would say. One is, adapting to the changing landscape. And the second, I would say, is maybe over communicate if you need to in your organization. So your teams are aware of what changes in direction you are taking and why you are doing what you're doing. And, there is a world beyond pandemic that you're looking at, and you're doing all you have to ensure that you are able to change the paradigm to survive through this and to win through this situation. So that's pretty much my view on the leadership orientation at this stage.
Wonderful, Lena. I think that was very well articulated, particularly the aspect on communication. I think Nikhil, so if I can turn over to you from what Lena mentioned, particularly I want to pick on the communication piece and to the extent of our communication with leadership. It's so much of a people thing. Maybe now wanted to get your views in terms of how do you see this? What have you really, is there anything that specifically in your organization you have in terms of communication in the changing priorities as Lena articulated? So over to you, Nikhil, in terms of your perspective.
Just before getting to communication, right? I think just wanted to pick up where what Lina kind of just shared broadly, right? If you think of where we are and what are the shifts happening, right, from what was before pandemic and what's happening during the pandemic, I classify them into kind of three big buckets, right? First, I think what I call the PPP, the people, the private and public partnership, right? Certainly, we've seen this in a very different way, which I've never seen before, right? And when I kind of just give you a little bit of double click into that, you know, the role of people, the role of public enterprises into private enterprises now is very different than ever been in the past. Second is really around, you know, the deglobalization and digitization. I know it'll be you know, covered later, but that's just another facet of what's happening. And then lastly, I think the value of purpose and connectivity to the community as a business, I think has not, you know, never been more elevated than before, right? Because ultimately, certainly if you're a business which exists in a certain geography, your accountability is far more than the CSR work you do. You know, your accountability has become to everything which is around you and how you can help and how you can partner and so on, right? In terms of communication, I think, you know, the first lesson, what we've learned is, you know, communicate with utter transparency. Again, nothing new about transparency, but again, it has just gotten more and more, I would, critical now, because, you know, there is so much data which is happening and coming during this pandemic time that there's a lot of confusion as to what is the right data, what is the wrong data. And so as a leader, if you communicate with transparency as to what you know and what you don't know, I think it just helps, you know, everybody build that trust. And I think building that trust with all your stakeholder now is more important than ever before. Secondly is acting with urgency, because there is just so much happening that as a leader, you have to act with urgency, no matter how much limited data you have, and you could be wrong. And if you're wrong, then you respond, you know, productively to the missteps and be honest about it. But, you know, urgency is very important in terms of taking action. And third is really, you know, engaging in kind of constant updating and perhaps even tapping into the suffering to build meaning with your employees and with your customers. Because there is no taking away that there is suffering in some form of structure for one or some parts of your stakeholder, right? And I think doing that in a very open, transparent way, you know, it's just going to help build that bridge and actually help people come out of the shelf, right? And in simple examples, right? We all work from home. And so before the communications was face-to-face, now it's online or it's through video. And it's fine if your children come into the video while you're having a call. I mean, that's part of life, you know. And so how can leaders and how can companies be more flexible to accommodate these small things, right? To make sure that the employees are feeling at ease, because there is, you know, there is home stress, there is work stress, and there is the health stress going on, right? And if we kind of, as leadership and as a company, we can help find ways to ease that. And as leaders, look at, you know, as Lina was mentioning, whether it's new normal or whatever that terminology may be, it's going to be redefined in a very different way versus what we have seen so far.
Yeah, thank you, Nikhil. I think that was wonderful. I think you have given a new definition to PPP. All that I had heard about it was purchasing power parity. So you have connected people, public and private. That's very nice. I think that was an interesting coinage. So I want to go to Rajesh. You know, there is a lot of software aspects related to people coming in these times, which leaders are trying to grapple with as they communicate transparently, honestly, with authenticity on the changing business priority. Rajesh, where do you really see this on how the CHRO comes into this, right? Because he is kind of the custodian of this people dimension. What do you see happening to the CHRO in this context that Lina and Nikhil mentioned? Over to Raj.
No, so that's a good question, and I'm going to pick up from what Nikhil said on the point of purpose. I think purpose of a brand or a purpose of an organization is come in spotlight like no other time. And I think any function, be it CHRO, CMO, CFO, is some sort of becomes subservient to the larger purpose, right? And the way I would look at it, and actually the company I work for, we try to look at it, is we build a cross-functional team, you know, and in this, at times we call it crisis management team. And it's people outside, it's your customers and partners, it's your employees, everyone is looking at you. So we together thought the larger expectation was what as a brand or organization we owe to the society and the nation. So we in that spirit, made all of our software products and technology and services free for the right cause, for governments, for social institutions, for healthcare institutions, and so on and so forth. And that helped a lot. That made an impact, and interestingly, it generated a very, very positive feel good and motivation among employees. And it spurred many people to go and volunteer their own time, which again we encouraged. The second part was, before you look outside at your customers and partners, you have to look at your employees. I mean, as individuals, we are all worried about health, our safety, our family, our well-being. So as a company, we owe it to our employees to make sure they are taken care of, they feel cared for, and then they become productive. Right? So I think, so that again, no function is fully resourced for these crazy times. So a lot of the functions, including marketing, came together to put together those things. And I'll talk a bit more about as we go forward into some of the next sections. And then the third part is your customers and partners. I mean, we saw both sides. We saw companies doing some great work. We also saw a lot of companies doing some clever communication and advertising, which brought you a chuckle, which is good. But if you didn't follow it up with, really genuinely, authentically helping your customers, then it actually did no good and maybe potentially, harm because you set different expectations which you didn't live up to. So I think CHROs needed to be a part of all of this. In some sense, the people became everyone's job, and every job became every functional head's job. So I would say this is like a perfect storm. At some level, it brought things to very simple, basic, what's your responsibility outside? What's your responsibility to your own employees? What's your responsibility to your customers and partners? And boundaries blurred. That's the best way I could, think of it.
Wonderful. I think that's a very interesting way to put it. The boundaries blurring in terms of everybody having to take care of people, no longer HR function. I think, Lena, do you want to chime in there? Because there are a lot of software aspects coming in terms of employees wanting to feel cared about, the aspects on the purpose and the real cause, right? So, Lena, do you want to chime in terms of what Rajesh just mentioned before I go to Sujit and Giri?
No, I couldn't agree with him more. Tata has always had very strong driven purpose. And in fact, when we pledged initially, aid to the government, I remember many people, not just from within the group, but outside our ecosystems, partners we work with, writing to me at that time saying, I'm so proud to be associated with, with this group. So, I couldn't agree with you. There is no better engagement that you can drive in an organization. If you're able to connect people's, people's purpose to the overall purpose that they see that you drive in the ecosystem, in your communities, there is nothing better than that. I'll give you an example of this. As Rajesh was speaking, it just, came into my mind. Hospitality is one of the worst hit industries, as you may know. And, the initial days when the pandemic broke, the government was still gearing up for infrastructure. That was the time when the Taj Group actually came forward and offered their rooms to the people who are doing essential service. So one is, of course, the help that it provided to people who needed help, which are in the community, but it also engaged the people within the group, within Taj Group, to actually contribute to this, right? I mean, otherwise, if you see, the chefs were free. I mean, there was no room booking during that time, but now they are preparing meals for many people who need it. So it was a beautiful way in which the organization engaged with something which was of meaning outside. And it also instilled a lot of pride. It instilled a lot of, it inspired confidence into the leadership as that happened. So I think these are, perfect ways in which an organization, and Rajesh also mentioned that it should stay true. It shouldn't happen that, I'm saying this, then I'm doing something completely different. I'm going to fall flat on that. So I completely endorse what Rajesh says, and some examples that came to my mind as well I shared.
No, great. I think that that's a very powerful example, the touch one that you mentioned, Lina. I think in terms of, I think there is a lot of outlook today in organizations and in employees on this meaning, right? And how we can derive inspiration and energy from our own fellow colleagues and, all across. So wonderful. Thank you, Lina. I think I just want to look at a different perspective. So Giri, you are, with Cisco and obviously into the real technology side of it. Now, as we see the software aspects and all of this coming through, right, and people working from home, there is a huge dimension on digitization that is really radically getting disrupted. A lot of things that we thought is in place, whether it is the business continuity, whether it is work from home, remote working, a lot of those infrastructure in terms of availability, in terms of its ability to scale, underwent a lot of stress. So wanted to get your perspective. On one side, you have a CHRO who is allowing people to remote work, but how do you really make it happen? And what's your perspective in terms of that digitization shift, the acceleration that has happened to it, and how has it really impacted the employee-employer dimension?
Thanks a lot, James. And I will continue the same theme that Nikhil and Rajesh mentioned about the purpose, right? What I can start with is when Cisco created a collective purpose for us called People Deal, it was for the people, by the people, right? The manifesto basically shares the story of who we are, what we do, and where we are heading as a company. And there were three things that formed the People Deal. One is about connect everything. Second one is about innovate everywhere. And the third one is about benefit everyone. I can't imagine how powerful these things are. And, we have been in the digitization journey for a long time. One of the themes that we were planning to drive is to create a digital workplace, which gives the right level of experience. And when you talked about the business continuity plan, and every company, every mature company has this, and they want to make sure that whenever disaster strikes, you have things running and you do not have a major disruption. But what happened in the pandemic is a complete disruption, right? Overnight, a lot of companies decided to do work from home. So which means if you have the capabilities that exist before, now you are really struggling to get the scalability issues into consideration, and you are making sure everyone is getting the right experience. You are able to get the productivity back into the same place. I see digitization as a key business enabler, and this pandemic has actually created opportunities, but unfortunately, there's a huge digital divide, right? Not all companies, not all verticals are in the same level. Some are way advanced. They have been working on this journey for a while. Most of the functions that they have capabilities are digital. So they have been able to wither this in a much better manner. And there is another section of companies and verticals where they have done a little bit of a digitization. But what has happened is, given the kind or the intensity of the change that has happened, to talk about the healthcare industry, they did have digitization in certain pockets, right? When you enter, there is a registration desk, you have a lab information systems, you have hospital management systems. But e-health or telehealth was not something that was very obvious. That was not something that everyone preferred. But now after the pandemic, there is increased willingness to do a video consulting compared to going to the hospital. And this has become a big enabler for both doctors as well as from a patient perspective. So there are plug-in solutions that are coming in. Everyone is trying to figure out, how do I get out of this in a more effective manner? Because if you are still waiting to figure out to get to the new normal, as Lina mentioned, the new normal is maybe giving us different things, and it may not be the same as what it was before. Maybe there are things that we never might go back to the old shape. And then the third segment of companies where they have been, I would say, behind in digitization, not necessarily because of their profile, but there are times where technology has not been mature enough in those areas. So they are still struggling. They are still trying to figure out. You can see a lot of small and medium businesses trying to figure out how to get back on the business now that things have been closed. I think the classic example I can recollect is a retail shop in Chennai used WhatsApp video to get their customers to see the products and then do a purchase, right? Because they didn't have an online website where people can see and choose the stuff. So digitization certainly has a huge impact in terms of how businesses are going to be enabled in future. But at the same time, since we are talking to the CHROs, I think the people engagement is going to be a huge impact with the digitization, right? How do we know the morale of the people is good in this kind of situation, right? We are not seeing people. Everyone is remote. Everyone is connected. And even this webinar, right? Everyone is doing it virtually. So technology and digitization is going to play a huge role in terms of how we are going to run this. And one of the biggest challenges typically used to be on the performance management. And many companies have come up with innovative ways. They don't do a one-time performance check and give a promotion or a increase. They are looking at an ongoing performance evaluation. And the company, and the example I can tell from what I'm aware of, from a Cisco's perspective, we have been in the digitization journey for a while. And what we have been able to do is do a weekly check-ins with every one of the employees, right? Not in terms of what they are doing, not in terms of what they've delivered, but in terms of how they feel. It's all systematic. So they put it in the system and the manager is able to see it. And we do measure how people are entering the data as well as how people are seeing the data. And what do you love about your job and what do you regret about the job, right? So it's more of a constant evaluation. We also have increased the engagement when it came to this pandemic, right? We have monthly check-ins with the senior leadership where, to the point Nikhil mentioned, complete transparent information about what is happening. Not everything is hunky-dory, everything is perfect. So we are looking into what is happening around us, how do we make things better for us and make an informed choice. And then we also have quarterly sync-ups with respect to engagement pulse. It's not only about how individuals are doing, but it also is important to understand how teams are performing, how they are working together as a team. And last but not the least, how do you develop people? I think everyone is interested in their development. Everyone is looking into how they are growing in their career. So we have something called Talent Space where we are looking into components of how they have been performing, what are the things that they are exhibiting, where are the things they feel that they need to be developed, and the entire ecosystem of people development. And last but not least, the digitization has actually helped us gather lots and lots of data in real time. And even though you can't associate everything into a number when it comes to people, right? There is an emotional component, but there are sophisticated technologies available which actually can help people leaders make more timely interventions and understand what is happening with the workforce. How do we make sure that they are continuing to be motivated and to deliver excellence? So digitization is certainly a necessity and it has actually accelerated big time. And I think there are ways people are coming out with trends of how things can be meaningful for each one of them. And I can only imagine that things are going to be it's going to have a multiplier effect as we move forward, as everyone got a hang of what digitization can do.
Great. Thanks, Giri. I think that was very well articulated on the digitization across sectors. What I want to do is, I think towards the end of your conversation, I think you brought in some wonderful points on the continuous performance management when people are all working from home. How are you really understanding the performance to what employees really feel, right? There is a huge phase of experience and moments that matter. And then you also touched upon the tremendous data volumes that are coming in from all this and the ability to actually look at this data and make meaning out of it. So I think, Sujit, you're a number person. You always keep looking at data and numbers. So let me come to you and place you into this context from a segue from where Giri stopped. Where do you see, as a custodian of the investment priorities of organizations, as a custodian of where some of these business priorities need to balance with the softer aspects, and holding the strings of the purse, where do you see this whole shift, particularly from how the people aspects is impinging upon your function And how are you embracing these conversations in your boardroom with the CHRO?
First of all, I think, I completely agree with Giri. The COVID is the biggest transformation agent as far as digitization is concerned. So there has been, like for instance, we are having 110,000 employees in India. And as of March, we had everyone working from home. All the customers are coming, I'm seeing big offices, big buildings, a lot of people buzzing with activity. And suddenly, as of today, there's hardly 1,000 people in office. And I'm taking this webinar from a garden. So it's completely changed the whole perspective of the way things are. And also the whole thing, what everybody tried to say, this people aspect of it. It's people, certainly from our side of it, we have seen, the people obviously is our biggest asset. We have so many people. So we have to ensure that people are motivated enough. They have been there for so many months stuck in office. So the wellness programs, we have got like corporate wellness program done. Every day there is some activities going on. Currently, we don't even know how many people are there, which part of the city, but we have to kind of ensure that we have to get close to them. We have to know that where they are, which, and from the customer's point of view also, they are working for the customer projects, and it's very important when there is so much of demand on digitization, and especially from the customer side also. And internally from our side, we have to ensure that we balance the employee engagement so that they are productive enough. And finally, that productivity generates into the customer solution. So that the aspect of employees, first of all, has to be very, very happy. And only when they are happy, their productivity goes up, and that impacts the overall business. And IT industry certainly has always been people, lots of people working from office. And so there are a lot of aspects which we are working in, but especially the discussion with the CHRO are that how do you take care of the employee? How do you take care so that their engagements are high, their productivities are high. And ultimately, that's what is the main message from the HR perspective.
Wonderful, Sujit. I think you put it very nicely. I think one of the areas that I think organizations and leaders are challenged with, and where we are trying to really get the CHRO in, is this balance, right? Between productivity and the working hard from home, working all the time kind of a thing, to how do you really engage the employees? You put it nicely, the happy employee, right? Happiness is very different in today's context, possibly, right? So Nikhil, I think where I want to come back to you, because I think Giri mentioned this huge gradient on some sectors being really ahead on the digitization, and while they are providing access, infrastructure, availability to employees to really work from home, and CHROs and CIOs are working hand in glove to really make that happen. You are so much of a new age digital native environment. Can you throw some light in terms of some of maybe the amazing, interesting examples which you might have done, or in your peer group that you would have encountered, where you really did some innovative stuff to really drive this balance, the digitization acceleration priority, and at the same time, how do you really get into the softer aspects of understanding the employee, the caring and the feel for the employee? How do you get those kind of engagement insights from the employee, and you really all the aspects of transparency, authenticity that you talked about? Can you connect this to for the audience?
Sure. And I'll just break it up into two segments: external stakeholders, which are customers, and internal, which are employees, because again, the lines have also blurred of transparency, that we have accountability to both, right? I think one of the first thing we did as an example when the pandemic started was that there was just so much information out there, and our customer segment is primarily small business, individual freelancers, entrepreneurs, mostly MSMEs and people who are less than 5, 10, 2 employees. And so we stood up an initiative which we called Open We Stand. And first thing we felt like was this is the time to be collaboratively competing. When I say collaboratively competing, meaning that we may all be competing in the same industry, but we have to collaborate to serve the same stakeholder. So Openly Stand was one kind of a platform we created, which had all the resources for small business, MSMEs, individual freelancers to come and find out what is available from the government, what is available from the private sector, from us, from our competitors, from our partners, and so on, and other informational, data sources they can find relevant, right? And very soon we found over, 75 to 100 kind of partners pitching in, because they felt like, okay, it's a one-stop shop for people to come and find and discover versus, going all over the place. Second thing we did was, as people, I think somebody talked about skilling and, continuously evolve the employees, right? So we stood up an initiative called GoDaddy Academy, which essentially meant providing digital skilling to both customers who are outside, who have never been online, right? Their mom and pop shops, kirana stores, whatever they may be, they don't even know what online means other than, maybe a social media account or an email. So we stood up this platform, GoDaddy Academy, where they could come and learn how to, what is digital marketing, what does it take to build a website, and so on, right? And that was both meant for external stakeholders and also some advanced level courses for our own employees to come and, do kind of learning management and so on. And the third example, which is very internal focus, is, we felt like obviously everybody had to work from home, and we have large customer care representatives, who serve customers 24/7. And what we wanted to make sure was, make the life easy for them, which means not many of them had large homes, right? Not everybody's working from a different environment, and many of them were not geared to be working from home. Home was just a place where you come, you sleep, and then you move on to work, and that was your life, right? So how can we provide not only tools and processes to make life easy, but be more, conscious of their environment, right? And I think, as I was mentioning before, if somebody has family and they're walking behind you while they are talking to you, it is fine, right? If your children are working, doing school from home and they come on the Zoom, it is fine, or on Teams, it's fine, right? And thirdly is around the mental and physical. There's a stat which had which was just recently published that on an average work hours have gone up by 3 to 4 hours minimum, right? 42% of the workforce globally generally has been diagnosed with anxiety and depression, women especially are spending 15 hours more easily per week, because it's more work for them because of the children and so on. And so what we wanted to make sure was provide enough tools and platforms for them to ease out, right? Whether we offer them, meditation apps, or we offer them, physical fitness classes, or we offer them some, kind of numbers and avenues where they, if they are going through anxiety, they can access them and so on, right? And so what we did was, we were not the policemen and enforcing to say, hey, you need to do this. Here are the tools and here are the processes, and, you are welcome to choose what makes, you comfortable and give you the space to make your decisions. But, we are here to support. So I think focusing a lot on the wellness part of employees was very, very big part of, of our kind of pivoting. We were doing it before, but now it just got really amplified very aggressively.
Great examples, Nikhil, of how you have really applied digitization to really shift some of those dimensions. I think I could really pick on one was the GoDaddy Academy. I think that's brilliant, right? In terms of the entire reskilling, upskilling, and the entire learning piece that you mentioned, evolving employees during times. And the second one, I think on the wellness side too, I think the meditation apps or some of those aspects that you're saying, I think are great examples. So Leena, I think Tata's obviously is known, right, for these softer values over decades and generations. So I wanted to bring you back, and maybe if you could actually connect some of these things. You started with this authentic, honest communication as a key aspect for leadership and CHROs in particular, in driving that to all the C-level executives in the way they engage employees. And then we have come through this contradiction, if I may put it, between driving productivity and purpose in the way employees are doing things from home. At the same time, how do you really manage the stress levels, anxiety levels, the wellness dimensions, the balancing of time, as Nikhil said, so many hours being spent by people in various things. So, Leena, if you could really connect these two and give an articulation of, hence, how has the CHRO role changed?
It should have changed. earlier as well, James. That's my view. As Rajesh earlier put it, it was a perfect storm, which, at least from my perspective, is really welcome. Because what has happened is, as people, earlier on, work from home was a nice to do thing, and it has been in existence for a long time, but today everybody believes it works, right? What has that done? It has really ensured that the mindset shift has happened around this aspect. So if there is one thing that the pandemic has done wonders, is actually that mindset shift. And people who are not able to adapt to that will be left behind. So if I take that mindset shift and I see a CHR role, there are ways in which you can drive change in your organization. So rethink about, those behaviors which perhaps were tolerated, and therefore were perhaps impediment to growth. So I would say that is one priority that a CHRO must have. The second bit, which both Sujit, Giri, and Nikhil also talked about, is digitization. Now, I would say digitalization, right? So, this happens when you think in some language, but you speak in another language, you're translating in your mind, and you're not communicating effectively. So if I'm thinking in Hindi and I'm talking in English, often it's not understood as well. So problem with digitization is that often it's not adapting to the language that the new age technology uh, brings. So it means that I need to challenge the way I used to think. It means that I have to first change my language so that I get the best out of digitalization. So that would be priority number 2 for HR people. Third would be really relooking at process. I think it was Giri who talked about performance, right? I mean, it's the same process. We've done many things around that process, and we've not perhaps made big headway to it. But you see today, and I know a lot of leaders today are doing daily calls, weekly calls. The cadence has improved. When that has happened, what happens? You're giving directions on the spot. You're changing directions on the spot. You're changing priorities, and there is clarity amongst your troops that this is really what I need to work on. And suddenly you find the productivity levels go up because there is clarity. The performance management system should be able to drive that clarity. But we've made this whole process into a mammoth exercise, so that is one process I can think of. Onboarding, why couldn't it have been completely digital before this? Of course, we are forced now to do it, right? But, these are great opportunities for us to really rethink, So when you start rethinking the process in a manner that this was what I was planning to achieve, the world has changed around me. Should I change my process around it? I think you would have made a big headroom in the organization to drive change. So that would be point 3. Fourth, and perhaps very key is, we spoke about wellness. We spoke about people feeling burned out. I think I cannot emphasize enough how much listening plays a role during these times. And I would say that instead of HR driving some of these things, I would say the organization should drive these things, which means that if ideas are coming from people, hey, Leena, I think we should do this. And it has happened in my organization, right? I've just given direction to those ideas. People come up with their own ideas. People come up with their own ideas to engage. They come with ideas that, hey, kids have off. Why can't we do a storytelling session for them? I'll get you a storyteller. Boom, do it. So, and people got engaged. So co-creating some of these things by listening, by channelizing, and by giving that space so that people come up and see the organization as their own versus somebody else trying to, tell them what is good for them, is the other piece that I would say would be very important. So these 4 from my perspective.
Wonderful. I think very well articulated and brilliant. I think that kind of gives a nice summary to the whole thing. And obviously, We are running on time. I would have loved to get back to Rajesh and Giri with some more stuff. I think there were some threats on the digitization, but very clearly, I think how you summed up on the mindset shift. And then I think brilliantly the way you put relooking at processes. And I think the digital virtual onboarding example that you gave is absolutely spot on, right? What I think we have a minute or so. So just to add some humor to the session, just wanted to have a quick, rapid fire with each of you. How you would look at the next 3 to 6 months, 3 to 9 months, and how would in one word, what would you call the future of the CHRO? Let's start with Rajesh.
I think the overriding word in my mind through last 6 or 7 months has actually been empathy. So I would say empathy and creativity, and augmented by technology, which is what my company actually does, and that's how I see the role.
I think that's well put. Over to Sujit.
I will say it's agility. The way things have changed and it's changing. It's a constantly changing, and this shows that there is nothing called business continuity plan. It's all about how it's how you change every day. The change management and the agility is the one word I'll say.
Wonderful. That's brilliant perspective. Giri.
The one word for CHROs would be reimagine you, because I think some of the things that we're talking about are not new, right? It's more about how do you do things better, how do you embrace technology, and most importantly, not look at people as capital or resources, but more about communities, right? How can all these communities come together, make an impact, make a solid state of positiveness in the whole company, whole planet, and things like that. So it's more of reimagining, in my view.
Wonderful. Nikhil, you have coined a lot of nice words already. GoDaddy, I really love that coinage, GoDaddy. So I'm sure you would have a nice word too.
No, I think I just want to build upon just what Lena said. I think the word HR to me, maybe even that becomes outdated to me. I think it's all about, and I think what we call chief, there was coins like chief people officer or something. I feel like people has to be in part of every functional responsibility and somehow coined into that, because that will change the narrative. Otherwise, it always falls back to HR. And one other small thing I want to do at a societal level, I hope our society moves from entitlement to humility, because there was a lot of entitlement.
Humility, the word that you pick?
Humility is the word I pick, because I think if people were not humble, this would have humbled everybody around the world.
Absolutely, you said it. Lena, I need to give you the last word on this.
So I'll say 2 words. One Giri stole from my thought, but I'll build on that. I would say recover and renew. Recover from your own fatigue, which has happened to many HR people, and recover the organization in the current context as well, and renew. Based on what I mentioned earlier, it's time to really rethink how we think. So that's really what I would say.
Wonderful, Lena. So empathy, agility, reimagine, humility, recover and renew. I think what a wonderful discussion. Thank you, Lena, Nikhil, Sujit, Giri, and Rajesh. It was a pleasure chatting up with all of you. I thought this was an absolutely amazing discussion. I think the points that came across were brilliant, and the context setting was so appropriate from all of you. Really enjoyed it. I hope all of you did as well. Thank you.